Hey guys, I'm Mike Rivers with the Rivers Group over at Compass Real Estate. I'm a Boston area native and a local real estate advisor. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the South End neighborhood of Boston. Not to be confused with South Boston or Southie, which is a completely different neighborhood with a completely different vibe. If you guys think you might need some help navigating the buying or renting process anywhere in the city of Boston, please feel free to reach out and let me know. Shoot me a text at the number below. Let me know what it is you're looking for. If I can't help you, I'll set you up with someone who can. But I've lived and worked in Boston since 2007, and I love helping people out who are following our channel. So reach out anytime. Let me know what it is you're looking for. I'll do what I can to help. In the meantime, let's dive into the South End, talking first about where it is located in the city. So the South End is located just south of the Back Bay, north of Roxbury, west of South Boston, and just east of Fenway, Kenmore. And I have to point out that because of Boston's progressive growth over several centuries that included many landfill projects, the names of the neighborhoods, specifically the ones that include the cardinal directions, can be a bit challenging to wrap your head around at first because those neighborhood names didn't exactly change in conjunction with the city's footprint. So just keep that in mind as we're navigating the different neighborhoods of Boston. Now with that said, let's take a look at some of the positive aspects of the South End neighborhood. The first pro of the South End is its diverse architectural and home styles. Now, while the South End is known for its rows of brownstone townhouses with beautiful ironwork and Victorian flourishes, the neighborhood actually features a wide range of architectural styles, reflecting the rich and diverse culture and history of the area. This includes converted industrial buildings, modern lofts, newly built condos, all creating a visually diverse and appealing streetscape, and also giving you the ability to choose from a variety of styles when you are selecting a place to live here. You can choose whether to get into a luxury condo with every possible amenity, a renovated townhouse that still retains some of that Boston charm, and some properties offer more of a blank canvas for you to make some of these creative renovations on your own. That brings me to pro number 2, the South End art scene. Now, the art scene in the South End is a central hub for artists and galleries, hosting events like the South End Open Studios. This is truly a haven for those interested in the arts. In the district called SOWA, short for South of Washington, you can stop by a large open market on Sundays from May to October. It's a combination of a farmer's market, along with some artists, jewelers, food trucks, and much, much more. This is a great place to spend a morning or afternoon in Boston, and you can pop right into the open art studios next door, and it's a huge perk for residents in the area. On top of that, the Calderwood Pavilion of the Boston Center for the Arts is a great place to catch performances, plays, and shows. The next pro is the South End's cultural scene. Now, the culture in the South End is as diverse as the architecture, which is reflected in the restaurants, the shops, and cultural events. This contributes to a rich and vibrant atmosphere and creates a great place to experience many different traditions and cuisines. The diverse cultural scene stems from a combination of things: the history of migration to the area combined with urban renewal projects attracting a mix of new residents, then the proximity to the universities and institutions drawing many young and curious minds from all over, along with the mixed-use development and affordable housing initiatives, all create an incredibly diverse and inclusive neighborhood here in the South End. The next pro of the neighborhood is the green spaces. The South End offers several green spaces and parks, including Peters Park and the Southwest Corridor Park, providing residents with opportunities for outdoor activities and relaxation. One of the more well-known spaces in the area is the Berkeley Community Gardens, which is a part of a collection of community-managed and maintained green spaces and garden plots. These community gardens serve as shared spaces where residents and community members can cultivate plants, flowers, and vegetables, fostering a sense of community, promoting sustainable urban agriculture, and enhancing the neighborhood's overall quality of life. The next pro is the restaurant scene in the South End. This neighborhood offers a ton of dining options, from cozy cafes to upscale restaurants to international cuisine catering to a variety of tastes and preferences. Whether you're craving seafood, barbecue, Thai, or gourmet sandwiches, the South End's food options are an amazing reflection of the city's rich culinary diversity. This is one of the best neighborhoods to find yourself in the city of Boston if you have an appetite. The next pro of the South End is its community feel. The South End has a strong sense of community with local organizations and community associations working tirelessly to organize events, from art festivals and farmers markets to neighborhood cleanup days and street fairs. These gatherings provide opportunities for people of all backgrounds to come together, share stories, and forge connections. The result is a neighborhood where people not only know their neighbors, but also actively engage in creating a sense of unity and belonging that truly defines the South End neighborhood. The next pro is the neighborhood's convenient location in the city of Boston. The neighborhood's proximity to downtown Boston and major transportation routes allows for easy access to the city's amenities and attractions. Now, while the MBTA subway stations are accessible mostly at the northern and western edge of the South End at Back Bay and Mass Ave, there are also bus lines running throughout the area here. The next pro of the South End is the historic charm. And while this neighborhood is known more for its contemporary appeal, it also retains some of its historic charm with cobblestone streets and brick sidewalks, tree-lined avenues, and carefully preserved architecture. You are going to see some of those red brick row houses here that you'll see in several of the city's older neighborhoods. So while there are definitely more modern elements in the area, it still has some of those charming old town vibes that may remind some people of historic European city neighborhoods. The next pro of the South End is its support of local businesses. And the South End supports a range of local businesses, including boutique shops, specialty markets, and independent bookstores, contributing to a unique and personalized shopping experience that feels less commercial than the nearby Back Bay. You could spend an entire weekend in the South End and only see a very small part of all this great neighborhood has to offer. But now that we've talked about a lot of the positive elements of the South End, let's get into some of the drawbacks. The first drawback of the South End is the parking challenges here. And if you've watched any of my other videos on these Boston neighborhoods, you're going to realize pretty quickly that the parking challenges is a recurring theme. And the South End is no different. It is free to park here if you're a resident with a permit, but the challenge is finding an available street spot to park in. And parking can be especially tough on days where there's an event going on, like that Sawa open market I was talking about earlier. So it's definitely not without its challenges, but in my experience, it's been a little bit easier to park in the South End than it has in neighborhoods like the Back Bay, Beacon Hill, downtown, the Seaport, areas that are a little bit more densely populated. The South End is not quite as bad as those, but it still has its challenges. So just keep that in mind. Now, the monthly rates for an off-street parking spot are going to be around $300 or $400 a month here. And if you do want to buy a spot outright, that's going to cost you about $100,000 to $200,000. The next drawback of the South End is the cost of living here. The rental rates, the housing prices are a bit higher here than they are in some of the other neighborhoods of town. But I just ran the prices for the last 12 months prior to posting this, so let's take a look at the figures from the last year. Starting off with the median sales price of a studio in the South End, they're at $637,500. The one-bedroom median sales price, $740,000. The two-bedroom median sales price, $1.3 million. And the three-bedroom median sales price is $2.2 million. Now getting into the rental rates, the studios are going to start at $2,300 a month. One bedrooms, $3,200 a month. Two-bedroom apartments are going to be $4,100 a month, and three-bedroom apartments are going to be $5,600 a month. Guys, those numbers are from the last 12 months prior to posting this, and those are just the median numbers. So if you want an up-to-date idea of what you can afford, feel free to get in touch with me. Let me know what your budget is. I'll figure out what we can find you on or off the market. The next drawback of the South End is the noise and traffic. This neighborhood is essentially bordered by two major interstates in I-90 and I-93. And also a couple of the busiest roads in the entire city in Massachusetts Avenue and Melniacast Boulevard. Now, while the neighborhood's popularity and location near some of the major routes can be very convenient if you drive frequently, this obviously leads to increased noise levels and traffic congestion at peak hours, something the locals may describe as an absolute cluster. But if you can somehow manage to avoid rush hour traffic, you might find the area's accessibility outweighs the occasional nuisance of driving around this part of the city at 5 p.m. on a weeknight. The next drawback is the limited number of large grocery stores and retailers. Now, many may actually see this as a positive element, and if you are big into retail stores and shopping centers, you may have to venture outside the South End for those options, like into the nearby Back Bay. I already mentioned the local shops and small businesses, but it's definitely worth noting the lack of those larger retailers here. But again, Boston's different neighborhoods are not super far from each other, so if you have to go to a big grocery store to stock up on the more bulk items, you're really not going to have to go very far. The next drawback of the South End is the limited number of large open spaces. And I know that I touched on the green spaces up in the pros section, and while you do have some great little parks and open spaces in the South End, their scale could be a factor for some who like to enjoy the more large open spaces and areas to stretch their legs or run around with the dog. You aren't going to see the same scale of green spaces here as you would in the Back Bay, along the Esplanade, or in Boston Common or the Public Garden. There are a couple of squares where you can find some more open parks, but their numbers are just fewer here compared to other areas in the city. So guys, those are the main pros and cons of the South End neighborhood. Hopefully that gave you some great insight as to what it might be like to live in this neighborhood. And if you have any more questions about what it might be like to live here, or are curious about any of the other neighborhoods in Boston, please feel free to reach out. Shoot me a text at that number below. And just so I know you're a real person and you're not trying to sell me something, for a faster response, feel free to fill out that form in the description. We absolutely love helping people out who are following our channel. So thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for more great Boston real estate content.